Congressman Neil makes a stop in East Longmeadow as the fire department receives a huge grant. Just ahead, how the money will help the town and firefighters. Drug Take-Back Day is called a success. We'll tell you the results of last weekend's event and new information on why it's so critical to get rid of your old prescription medication. In sports news, the Spartans are knocked down in the rankings but have plans to come back this Friday against Holyoke. Those stories just ahead on LCAT News Update. Good evening, I'm May Randall. We begin tonight with a big boost for the East Longmeadow Fire Department. The ELFD received a check worth nearly $70,000 this week, thanks to a federal grant delivered by Congressman Neil. Fire Chief Paul Morissette accepted the grant on behalf of the department on Monday. The AFG, or Assistance to Firefighters Grant, will go to purchase 27 sets of what's called turnout gear. Chief Morissette explains.
It allows us to replace all our gear for 27 guys to the current standard that allows them to enter atmospheres that could be dangerous to the average person in their regular clothes. It allows them to do their job safely.
The AFG program is funded through the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, and the Department of Homeland Security. Congressman Neil says East Longmeadow is a leader in the state in securing funds for public safety.
East Longmeadow's had terrific applications which have allowed me to be helpful to their overall pursuit. In this particular instance, I think we're reminded of the fact that even though there's been great strides that have been made in terms of security, nonetheless the nature of the new fire is equally dangerous to what it's been in the past. I can and will be helpful, but not to miss the point, the application itself still has to stand up under the magnifying glass of critical scrutiny. These are professional firefighters and chiefs who actually grade these applications, and from there, you can help get it over the goal line, but in the interim, it still has to be an application that people look at and say, wow, this is a good one.
Morissette says the total project budget is just over $70,000. The federal share is about 95% with money set aside in the department's budget, making up the difference.
We receive notices through Congress that the awards, the grant applications are out, and we apply every year. This is our 8th award, so we applied I think deadline was last November, and we waited out the process, and we were selected out of usually about 20% of the applicants receive an award.
The new equipment is expected to be in the hands of the ELFD by January. During Congressman Neil's visit to East Longmeadow, LCAT News took the opportunity to ask him about a recent controversial vote on Capitol Hill. Last week's vote granted U.S. military authority and funding to train and arm Syrian rebels. All 9 congressional representatives from Massachusetts are Democrats. However, Congressman Neil and Representative Stephen Lynch of South Boston were the standouts who voted for the resolution. The measure provides $500 million to arm and train Syrian rebels to strike against ISIS without having U.S. troops set foot on Syrian or Iraqi soil.
I think that ISIS represents a very real threat to world order. And not to miss the point that the brutality, the unyielding barbarism that has overtaken this part of the world, they have proposed a caliphate that would be created from Afghanistan to Turkey. It's a 7th century relic, and these are individuals that have little regard or respect for human life. And I think that what the president has correctly asked for is the use of air and drone strikes. The Arab League, NATO, and those nations that might be willing to assist in addressing, again, the barbaric nature of these assaults.
The measure was added to spending legislation to keep the government running past the end of the budget year on September 30th. Neil says it's critical to stop ISIS now.
The president has agreed to come back to Congress by December 11th. I am opposed to boots on the ground. We are not asking here for any sort of American troop commitment, recalling that I voted against the war in Iraq, and there weren't many of us. But understanding as well that our leadership is critical to addressing ISIS.
The Senate also passed the measure, voting 78-22 in favor. In other news tonight, the East Longmeadow Drug Take-Back Day is being called a big success. Over the weekend, the police department accepted any unused or expired prescription medication. Sergeant Pat Manley says it's part of the national effort to keep drugs out of the wrong hands and out of our water supply.
The local police don't want to see anybody get hurt. We don't want to see somebody taking some old medication by accident. We don't want to see kids getting access to things they shouldn't. We want to do everything we can to help the community keep these drugs from injuring somebody.
This weekend, the ELPD took in 121 pounds of expired and unused prescription medication. Manley says the department offers a drug take-back day several times a year, thanks in part to federal and state funding.
Now, this is not something that will last forever. This is a funded program that operates on grants and somebody has to pay for everything. What happens is there's a cost for the disposal. But the disposal is presently being funded because the EPA doesn't want these drugs getting into the water system.
No word on when the next drug take-back day is scheduled. Stay tuned to LCAT for details. In sports news, the new MIAA Western Mass Power Football rankings are in. This week, the Spartans fall from number 5 to number 6. The Spartans had a bye week last week after falling to Central the week before. This week, head coach Raymond Sullivan says they are not focusing on any kind of ranking, but on Friday night football. EL faces Holyoke Friday at home.
We really don't pay attention to rankings, to be honest with you. We take each game as it comes, and whatever happens, happens, and that's why we've done it here every year. So we're looking forward to Holyoke, and that's all we can do is take one at a time.
Number 8 ranked Holyoke gave Central a run for their money Friday night, but Central pulled out the W. Raymond says his team is using the extra prep time to condition and be in top form for Friday night. More on that in the Holyoke matchup Wednesday on LCAT News Update. Well, that will do it for us. Thanks for watching LCAT News Update. I'm May Randall. Until next time, good night.